Welcome. We hear a lot about the future of transportation, and the discussion always involves autonomy and artificial intelligence. This particular model is focused on data, and we're going to talk a lot about how data informs the future of transportation in a sustainable way. And first, I just want to talk a little bit about how these really interesting companies come together. Jessica, you founded a company called Getaround that takes the idea of peer-to-peer sharing and brings it to the automotive market, where the idea of ownership, it's my car, is really deeply rooted. And Zack, you as the CIO of Toyota North America, you moved into something entirely new at Toyota, and that is a data science company, something that most large automakers just don't have. So let's start talking about how you see personal mobility evolving during the next few years and how data science informs that. Jessica, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, thanks. Well, it's great to be here. This is a really hot topic, and we're doing a lot of fun stuff in the space, so it's exciting to talk about the future of cars. Basically, for us, we are tackling a problem we call car overpopulation. Essentially, there's 1 billion cars on the planet that sit idle 23 hours a day, and sharing cars is the biggest way to take CO2 emissions out of the atmosphere and enable people to live car-free. So what we've done is we've created a platform for people to share cars. We've passed legislation, created custom hardware, and we've really created this movement where we have 500,000 users now in a number of US cities sharing cars.
Now, I have to ask, how do you bring order to that? Now, it's difficult for me to coordinate lending my car to a neighbor or lending my car to a family member. Mm-hmm. How do you coordinate millions of people potentially exchanging vehicles for very short periods of time?
Yeah, well, it all comes, like our secret sauce is in the technology and the experience we've created. So basically we have hardware technology in the car that can make any car a connected car. And also it makes it that the owner just has a calendar that they keep up to date, and if they're not using it, anyone can use their car. So they're really trusting us as the brand that these drivers are safe and that we have top-notch insurance and processes for handling any situation.
Zack, from your perspective as the head of a unit owned by one of the largest, not just automotive companies, but companies, period, in the world, how does this all sound to you? Is it completely alien? Does it turn everything upside down?
Well, it's not completely alien. The ownership models we're seeing are changing. People's expectations of transportation certainly is changing. I don't know if anybody has the exact answer yet, but what we do see are certain components about connectivity, understanding where your car is, what condition that vehicle is in, and being able to share a physical key. So if I want to be able to share my car as an owner and park it on the street and have somebody else come and get it and use it for the day, I don't want to physically meet them, hand them my key. And then longer term, we want to be able to have Amazon or other companies be able to deliver to your vehicle when you're not there. So these mobile type apps that give you a new experience with your vehicle and a new way to interact with your vehicle are critical to us.
Why Getaround? You could have partnered with any number of companies in the space. What was interesting about this opportunity?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand when we formed Toyota Connected, we were focused on, we've got all this tremendous data coming out of the vehicles. How do we unleash that data to make the customer have a better experience with their car? And our mission at Toyota Connected is to free us from the tyranny of technology and make driving a more human experience, or technology a more human experience. Today, technology, for the most part, isn't great. You've got this app by app or device by device experience. It needs to be contextual, it needs to understand where you're at. And when we partnered with Getaround, what we saw, which was great, was their ability to understand the marketplace and to pivot. One of the first use cases we saw was that there were power users on the Getaround market space leasing a car, a Prius, for $300 a month, parking around San Francisco and making $800 a month. That's really powerful. And when we abstract that a little bit further, we can see, well, our dealers have used inventory sitting on their lots. Why couldn't they participate in this marketplace? So partnering with Getaround gives us a great partnership and a place for us to try out. And we're putting 100 vehicles into their pool. 60 are owned by Toyota. The other 40 we're partnering with new car owners who may want to split the revenue, where it can help offset their car payment revenue would go to Getaround and revenue would go to them as well. So we're also getting a
Potentially
chance to kind of learn how
business
to,
models.
new business models
Yeah.
and how to pivot.
And one thing we're trying to do is basically, cars haven't really changed in the past 100 years, and now there's this big shift towards access to transportation over ownership. So our vision for owners is, like you were saying, it's a better experience to have your car and have it on Getaround than to just have it for yourself. So we can make it easy to have it maintained, clean all the time, and then your car pays for itself. So you may have that Prius, or you may be able to afford a higher end Lexus because you have the Getaround income.
The car has been described as one of the most lethal things that we own. It kills people, it pollutes, it sits idle most of the time, and it costs a lot of money. So how do you begin to turn that around?
Yeah, I think, what we're seeing is, like, one of the reasons we were so excited to partner with Toyota is, as the car makers go, you guys are really innovative in terms of putting safety technology in as a default. And, like, one thing we try to do with Getaround is to get the cleaner, greener vehicles on the platform. So if you are sharing your car, you can actually turn it over quicker rather than keeping an older car and driving it around. We basically reduce vehicle miles traveled. When you start sharing your car, you go into this mindset where you don't need to drive it all the time, whereas when you just own it, you actually try to drive more because you're paying for this depreciating asset. So it's kind of a lot of different things, but I think it really comes from a shift in behavior with customers that will only be supercharged once we have self-driving cars.
Zack, I have to wonder, are you basically taking capacity out of the system, and what does that do to sales?
Well, I don't know if that's what we're seeing, or what our goal is to not sell less cars. I mean, we want to sell more cars, but we sell, and we also sell the most efficient cars on the marketplace today. But what we do want to do is give our customers a choice. Customers will drive what experience they want. And we get that question a lot about, say, Uber. We're saying, is Uber is hurting? Well, actually, the largest, the biggest manufacturer in that Uber space is Toyota. So they're buying our cars more than anyone. So we're seeing sales. But what we want to do is give customers freedom of choice. You may own a car differently in the future. So maybe you have one permanent car that you have, or maybe you have a subscription to a vehicle in the future where during the week I want to drive a Camry, and on the weekends I want to drive a sports car. Those models may be an opportunity, and what we're getting a chance to try out with Getaround is building a profile. So once we understand your car seat settings, your air conditioning settings, the radio stations, your preset destinations, you should be able to go up to another vehicle and have all of that experience, your profile, go with you on the cloud. You get in the car, and your destination's already there, your car seat's in the right position, you can just get and go.
Yeah, and that's what's such a magical experience, because if you can just open the app within a couple taps, get whatever car you want, walk up to it and unlock it with your phone. And then if you have Bluetooth, you can actually just have keyless go, so the car will just open. And so people say it's kind of like magic.
What else do you do with this profile? What are the applications and features that you can build on top of it?
Well, what we're seeing with the data science already, if a customer decides to share their data with us, if we know enough about you, we know your likes, the type of food you like. So if you're driving down the road and you say, I'm hungry, we know that you like Mexican food, and we know there's a Mexican restaurant that's 2 exits ahead of you instead of 2 exits behind you. That's a contextual answer. Or even something as simple as when you get in the car to start, instead of getting halfway to work and realize, oh man, I forgot my cell phone, reminding you when you get in the car to say you forgot your cell phone. So making people's life easier. We know when you get in the car, you've got an 8 o'clock meeting, you're not going to make it, traffic's too bad. So how about we automatically let the meeting organizer know that you're running late? It's just making people's lives better and using their data to help them, not to exploit them or to sell it to somebody else. It's about unleashing the power of that data for a better experience.
How much of that technology is available right now or likely to be available very soon?
It depends upon the model. So on our Lexus vehicles, which are very connected, we can deliver those services pretty quickly. But what we've committed to is starting in 19, all of our vehicles will be connected and constantly connected. And so that gives us the path to be able to deliver these services.
Jessica, as you see the mobility market take off, do you see ownership fading away entirely?
Well, we definitely know that car ownership in the future is more shared. So when you have autonomous cars, it absolutely doesn't make sense to have one car, one driver, since it can be super convenient for that car to service multiple people or multiple families. But we actually still believe that because of our platform, car ownership will stay, and it just depends on who wants to be the owner. So we have fleet partners, we have power owners who have small businesses on the platform. You could imagine that you could go away, but I think certain people really like to have ownership. They take pride in that, and what we've seen with our owner community is they also take pride in the fact that they're helping to take cars off the road by sharing vehicles. So I think who can own may still, it's really just like using the technology to make sure that they still have their perfect experience when they use the car, and other people can also have the same experience.
Yeah. And maybe to add on to the earlier question too, is that once we understand how somebody drives their car, so the next time you want to share your car, having a profile on a potential renter of your vehicle, you want to know how aggressively were they driving the past vehicle. So we can get all of that data, score that type of driver, so then you know as an owner of a vehicle, I'll rent to these people, but I won't rent to those. Mm-hmm. Or the platform provider can help figure that out for you too.
Question for both of you. How do you view advantage from business's point of view? Jessica, what is to prevent Zipcar or any other ride-sharing service from moving into a peer-to-peer model? And Toyota faces endless competition, mm-hmm. And all of your rivals can establish data science units. So how do you maintain advantage? And what do we as consumers value in the future?
That's a great question. When we started the company, we had the smartest people in Silicon Valley say, this is a great idea, but it'll never work. It's too hard. You're going to have way too many challenges. And, we've time and time again overcome a lot of hurdles that would have brought us down. We've also seen a lot of competitors crop up and go out of business within like 24 months. So we're definitely a survivor, and we've taken this opportunity as a long-term opportunity.
Why did they go out of business in 24 months?
Yeah, maybe function of the raising too much money and not knowing how to deploy it efficiently and not realizing how hard the business is. So we've been at this for 8 years.
What is so hard about it?
Hardware technology, getting the product experience right, understanding the claims process and unit economics, as well as how to avoid security risks and fraud. So a lot of different aspects, but we took an iterative approach. We tried not to grow too quickly. The major things that give us a competitive advantage is that we have patents on our hardware technology and the business experience, and just know-how and speed. So now we're scaling up. We've raised almost $100 million at this point, and just partnering with great companies. We know how to spend it and spend it carefully and create value for the customer.
Zack, where do you see advantage residing in the digital environment?
We spent a lot of time even today at this conference talking about autonomous driving, which is cool, it's exciting, but we're all going to get there, and at some point it'll become a commodity. It won't be a differentiator in the vehicle, but will be a differentiator is the experience, and that ownership experience and the services that you can provide and deliver to the vehicle. So it's important that you honor the customer's data and you do something exciting and cool with it, and that's the opportunity. Today, if a customer is driving outside of their normal route, using machine learning, I can predict with 80% accuracy where they're going, even if they've never been there before. And what I can do with that data is say, it looks like you're going to a Kings game. Do you want me to route you around traffic and prepay your parking? That's a good experience. So it really is about leveraging the data to make a new experience for a customer.
There's an argument to be made that data will eventually be so valuable that the car itself will be free, much in the way that, say, cell phones at various times have been essentially given away for free. Do you think that that's possible, given the expense of building one car?
We're kind of starting to do that now. So part of our partnership is that your car payment can be paid directly through your Getaround earnings. So that's a bit of a twist of how it can be free.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Because cars generally make more than their car payment when they're shared on a regular basis.
That's something that Getaround specifically has been experimenting with?
And that's something we're doing together. Yeah.
We're doing it together.
How is it working out so far? Are there actual beta users using this model?
Yeah, we've done various smaller tests in the past, and this is really about scaling it and opening it up to more Toyota customers. It's been very successful. Toyota's our top brand on the platform, which drove the decision to partner. And basically, it's exciting to just go get deeper in the ecosystem, partnering with dealers as well as the brand.
Let's say that I want to use my car and 50 other people want to use the car. How do you prioritize everyone's interests?
Yeah, it's really on a first come, first served basis. So if the car is available and you're a member in the network, you can just book it. And so it's, we really work to balance supply and demand on the importance of providing a good experience. So if you have a particular car in mind, like a Tesla or Porsche or a new
Lexus.
of course, you could book that in advance, or a lot of people just go for the closest car. So we'll have a car, for example, on every block in our major cities.
One of the familiar narratives in business since forever is that the startup will disrupt the behemoth. We have a startup, we have a behemoth. How are you getting along, and what have you learned from one another?
It's been a great partnership. It's a great test bed for us to try different models out. As you just heard, we put some Lexus vehicles in there, and we saw that we were actually making a small profit on these vehicles very quickly. We didn't anticipate it. I don't know if it'll scale. I don't know how big this will go, but it's a great opportunity for us to dip our toes in the water and to see what works. We're also looking at, so I've got 60 cars that we've bought, and we're putting into the Getaround platform, but the other 40 is we're trying to understand, what do customers want? What's really meaningful for them? Is there a segment that wants? Yeah, it does. And so if you've got now customers that are saying, I'm willing to help pay off my monthly note by revenue I'm getting through Getaround, if we embed that capability into the head unit, maybe that's an option for the next time that somebody wants to buy a car that's a little bit above what they can afford. It's a new space for us, but it's worth us trying it out.
Yeah, one interesting thing about selling cars, and you'd know this better than I do, but about 2/3 of people who want to get a car can't because of credit reasons. And so in terms of selling more cars, we can actually guarantee those earnings and enable more people to have car ownership that need it, which there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that on the ride sharing side. The average person that wants to drive for a ride sharing company has actually bad credit. So they've got that problem of how do they get to the vehicle? And so this may be an opportunity that we can, through the vehicle controls, as long as they're driving and paying off their lease or their ownership model, they can continue to drive. But you can also then turn it off if that car is not earning value and it's not being paid.
Are there any examples in the market of this sort of predictive technology, and does it actually work? I mean, we know that peer-to-peer platforms work. Uber works, Airbnb certainly works, but can you point to examples of other companies that have brought this predictive capability to market and actually done something with it? Jessica.
Good question. I mean, I feel like you see this in general, the on-demand economy is a space we're playing in, and I feel like you just see so much predictive intelligence going into shopping, like all the purchasing decisions you're making. I don't know if that's what you had in mind, but
well, in a shopping environment, it's not really a real-time decision. I might buy a book and then Amazon will recommend another book. Oh, you like that book? Well, try this one. But that's very different than saying, I'm driving down the highway, I'm at exit 9, I know that you like a certain kind of food, pull over here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, you definitely see that already with apps that, apps that you allow to push to you, mostly like Foursquare, Yelp, different things try to recommend things based on your location. So I've definitely seen that in social apps in general. Friends are nearby, like using proximity to kind of make those connections.
Is it more difficult to make those recommendations when I'm traveling at 55 or even maybe 75 miles an hour?
It's not. I mean, we're already doing things today with analytics of ADAS to the cloud, where if we're seeing vehicles going down the road, and if one vehicle swerves around an object, and we're detecting other vehicles swerving around an object, we can take that to the cloud, understand it, and then start warning the vehicles behind them. So in vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure, we have to get that. And in order to get to autonomous driving, you have to be able to do the type of processing as close as possible to real time. But our goal isn't to serve ads up to people while they're driving down the road. It's to just make their lives better. So when they say I'm hungry, we know enough about them that it's really from a limited decision set of what we're giving to them. But your earlier question is that we saw in some early tests, if we looked at customer data and we mashed it up with social data, that we could predict when a customer was ready to buy a car. And we then got down to say how many blue Camrys versus white Camrys would we sell in the Boston region. We proved that our predictive analytics were getting better than what our sales department was predicting. So absolutely you can leverage this data to have better insights.
So it seems that both of these ideas are based on the idea that you know everything about me as a consumer, and that's a great thing. How secure is that data, and how short a trip is it from the best thing ever to you've ruined my life?
Yeah, I mean, with great data comes great responsibility,
Right.
and we take that very seriously. We've never had a breach. We have so many layers of encryption on the hardware, as well as, you know, we actually use Facebook Connect to make sure that people are more secure in terms of how, which is a little controversial, but how people are using their real identities, and you know, we're just going to keep being on the cutting edge of safety.
Yeah, and we were at Toyota one of the founding members and drivers for the privacy principles that we worked out with the automotive industry and working with the U.S. government. You know, you get one shot at this. If you betray a customer's trust, you're not going to get another shot at that. So it's, you know, I think you've heard it from the earlier sessions, it's just paramount. It's got to be the first thing you do. And that's why when you're asked, to your earlier question, you're saying, how fast will we see this in the cars? It may not be as fast as you want, because we want to make sure it's the safest thing that it can be before we deliver to the vehicle.
Great. We are out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.